All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And, well, I gotta be honest, that thing's a bit intimidating, right? Like, it's pretty massive.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Like, anyone thinking of picking this one up, you got to know right off the bat, over 600 pages.
Whoa, okay. Over 600.
Yeah, yeah. Big jump from, like, Prisoner of Azkaban, which was, what, 300 something? Yeah, definitely. Okay, so, like, first impression, is it just filler? Come on, be honest.
Not even close. Actually, I think the length is what makes this book so good. You know, the first three, they're very much like contained, right? You got that Hogwarts school year, everything neat and tidy.
Yeah, yeah.
But this one just explodes outward. Like the scope is huge. It's almost like, I don't know, like the series itself is growing up, you know?
Okay, so not just longer, but, like, more complex, too.
Exactly. Like way more complex. So the main plot, it's all about this Triwizard Tournament.
Triwizard Tournament.
Yeah. So it's this big magical competition, but it's not just Hogwarts this time. You got Beauxbatons, that's a French magic school, and then there's Durmstrang.
Oh, wow. Fancy.
Yeah, and Durmstrang is known for, well, just say their magic's a little more intense. Maybe even a tad dark, if you get my drift.
Okay, 2 new schools. That's got to be a ton of new characters. Does it ever feel like too much?
You'd think so, right? But actually, the reviews I've seen, everyone's praising Rowling for how she handles it. And this one book review I read, they were saying how smoothly those new characters just blend right in. Like, everyone's there for a reason, adding to the story, not just taking up space.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I gotta admit, that darker magic thing has me a little worried. Is this still a book for the same audience as the first ones? Like, should I be worried about younger readers picking this up?
That's a good question. Actually, the book review talked about that specifically. So the person writing it, they'd grown up with the series, right? And they felt like this book, Goblet of Fire, it matched how they'd grown up too. Yeah, like the themes are definitely more mature, but it's not like suddenly super dark. It's gradual.
So a natural progression. I like that. But how does that darker stuff show up in the story? What's different?
Well, I don't want to be too much away, but the climax, it brings something much more sinister into the series, you know? Like a lot of the online reviews I saw, they said this is where things really shift. It's like, welcome to the dark side kind of thing.
Ooh, dark side.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of ominous. So, no spoilers, but can you give me at least a little hint about what makes this book different from the first 3?
How to put it? Imagine this. The first 3 books, it's all about Harry discovering this whole magical world, right? Finding his place. This one's about facing the cost of all that magic, what it really means.
Okay, that's pretty intense. But what about the writing itself? Does that change too?
Not really, no. Rowling, she's still got that style, you know? Easy to read, pulls you right in. The book review actually said she's great at balancing the humor and the suspense.
Oh, good. Because I always loved how quickly those first books read. Sounds like this is going to be more of a slow burn, though, huh? Not necessarily slow burn. I'd say more like a tapestry. Yeah. More detailed, more intricate. But all those threads, they're building to something amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. Starting to see why people love this book so much. But this does sound like a pretty big shift from the earlier ones. Is there anything we can compare it to, like other books or series, just to give people an idea?
You know what's interesting? In terms of like tone and all that, Goblet of Fire kind of reminds me of the Hunger Games.
Ooh, okay, Hunger Games. Now that's a comparison I wasn't expecting.
Right, but think about it. Both series have these like young characters facing these crazy challenges, having to make these huge decisions, life or death stuff, all within this tournament setting.
Yeah, okay, I see it. And Hunger Games definitely doesn't shy away from, like, the tough stuff, right? Morally gray characters, all that. Is that something Goblet of Fire does too? Big time. Like, this book really digs into some heavy themes. It's not just a friendly competition. It's like this whole reflection of what's happening in the wizarding world, all the messed up stuff.
Like what?
Well, you see all this prejudice and tension between the schools kind of mirroring real world stuff, you know? Like, it makes you think about how our own biases can lead to, like, bad stuff, even violence.
Wow. Okay, yeah, so it's not just a plot device. It's like a commentary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then as the tournament goes on, the danger just keeps ramping up. You got the Death Eaters lurking around, Voldemort's followers, and they're not messing around. It's clear that the stakes are way higher than just winning some cup.
Right. You mentioned Voldemort's return, which, has been this looming thing in the background. So how does this book deal with that?
Okay, so this is where things really shift. It's not just whispers and rumors anymore. Voldemort is back. And what's really, I guess chilling is the right word, is that Harry's still just a kid having to deal with all this, like life or death stuff, on top of just being a teenager.
Teenagers have got enough to deal with as it is. So does Harry handle it well? Like, did the review say anything about that?
Yeah, the book review I read, they pointed out how, like, real Harry struggles feel. He's dealing with all this trauma from the previous books, and the tournament just forces him to confront it all head on. And it's not pretty. He makes mistakes, gets angry, isolates himself.
That's good, though, right? Like, it makes him more relatable. He's not just this perfect hero.
Exactly. And it's not just the external stuff he's battling. His relationships with Ron and Hermione, those get complicated too. They're all growing up, and that changes things, you know? There's jealousy, misunderstandings, even some resentment.
Friendships can be tough, especially with that age. So all this tension, does it make the book, like, super heavy?
There's definitely a sense of unease throughout the whole thing, like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And the characters feel it too. It's like they're losing that innocence, realizing the world isn't all sunshine and butterbeer.
Sounds kind of emotionally draining. Any moments of, like, relief?
What about that Yule Ball thing? I saw some online reviews mentioning it being pretty great.
Oh, the Yule Ball is definitely a highlight. It's like this breath of fresh air, pure magic and fun amidst all the darkness. The way Rowling describes it, the decorations, the music, the excitement, you feel like you're right there in the Great Hall with them.
See, those are the moments that make the series so special.
For sure.
Yeah.
But even within all that celebration, there's still these little moments of character development, hints of things to come. Like you see Ron's insecurities and Hermione, she just blossoms. It's really beautiful. It's a turning point for all of them, a reminder that life goes on even when things are tough.
Glad to hear there's still some light in there. But I still can't help but wonder, is it just too much for younger readers? Maybe they should wait a bit.
It's a tough call, honestly. Every reader is different. I will say, though, the book never feels like it's trying to be edgy or anything. It's more about exploring those complicated feelings that come with growing up. So coming of age, but with magic wands and dragons.
Exactly. And in a way, it's kind of similar to Percy Jackson, right? You've got these young heroes figuring out who they are, where they belong, all while fighting monsters and stuff.
Ooh, good point. Both series do a great job of blending fantasy and reality. But what makes Goblet of Fire stand out? What's different?
I think it's the characters, how much depth they have. Rowling isn't afraid to show their flaws, their weaknesses. They make bad decisions, they doubt themselves, and there are real consequences. And that makes the magic even more powerful because it's grounded in these like human emotions we can all relate to.
Yeah, it's the human stuff that makes it all hit home. But we've talked a lot about the serious side. What about the fun stuff? Is there still that sense of wonder, like in the first books?
Oh, yeah, totally. Rowling's world building is still amazing. We get to see more of the wizarding world outside Hogwarts, like Diagon Alley, the Quidditch World Cup. It's so vibrant, and there are new creatures, new spells. It's just magical.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. But with all this new stuff, does the mystery of the Triwizard Tournament get lost?
Not at all. That mystery is what keeps you hooked, and Rowling knows how to keep the suspense going. Each task is like a puzzle piece, revealing more about what's really going on, and you're constantly trying to figure out who put Harry's name in that goblet, what they're planning.
Sounds like a real page-turner. I gotta admit, I'm starting to get why people love this book so much. It's like action, mystery, humor, even some life lessons thrown in there.
It's a whole package. And don't forget the creativity. The Triwizard Tournament itself, it's just brilliant. Each task is so unique, pushing the characters to their limits, showing off all these different types of magic.
You've convinced me on the tournament, that's for sure. What about the ending, though? Does it leave you satisfied or wanting more?
Oh, the ending. It definitely changes things. I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say it gives you closure on some things, but then opens up a whole new can of worms. Like, it wraps up the tournament, but it's clear this is just the beginning of something much bigger.
So like a satisfying conclusion, but also a major turning point for the series.
You got it. Kind of like The Empire Strikes Back, you know, that feeling of like loss and uncertainty, but also this glimmer of hope.
Oh man, Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, I remember feeling all kinds of emotions after that one. So knowing how Goblet of Fire ends, would you say it's essential reading for like anyone who wants to continue with the series?
100%. This book is like the bridge to everything that comes after. It gets darker, more complex, and if you skip it, you're going to miss a lot.
So not just a standalone story, but like a key part of the whole saga.
Exactly. And it's not just about the plot either. You see the characters grow so much in this book. They deal with some really tough stuff. Loss, betrayal, realizing that the world isn't always black and white, and those are lessons that stick with you.
So it's like more than just a fun story. It's something that makes you think about, like bigger stuff.
Yeah, it challenges you, makes you question things, look at the world in a different way.
Wow. Okay, so to sum it all up, what would you say to someone who's not sure about reading Goblet of Fire, especially with it being so long and, well, all the stuff we've talked about?
Honestly, I think anyone who loves the series needs to read it. Like, it's not just a good story, it's an experience, you know? It changes how you see the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm getting that vibe for sure. It's like a turning point, not just for the characters, but for, like, us as readers, too.
Exactly. And what makes it so powerful, I think, is how it makes you and the characters face some hard truths. The world, it's not always fair. Good people mess up, and sometimes evil. It can be really sneaky about it.
Right. It's not so black and white anymore,
Yeah.
like those first few books. But does it do that well? Like, is it ever preachy or anything?
Not even a little bit. It all feels natural, like it's just part of the story. The characters, they struggle with stuff, they make mistakes, just like we do. And seeing them go through that makes us think about our own choices, what we believe.
Yeah, I can see that. Can you give me an example? Like, how does that actually play out in the book?
Okay, so there's this part during the second task of the tournament, right? And Harry, he has to save someone. But he doesn't just save his person, he saves everyone who's underwater, even though they're his competitors.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and that choice, it comes from a good place, right? He's being compassionate, fair, but it also has these huge consequences. And it shows how much he's grown, how he's different from people who just want to win no matter what.
That's what I love about Harry. Even when things are crazy, he still tries to do the right thing. He's inspiring.
Totally. And those choices he makes, they don't just affect him, they affect everyone, the whole wizarding world even.
So it's not just about him growing up. It's about how we can, like, change the world around us.
Exactly. That idea of responsibility, it's all over this book. Every choice Harry makes, big or small, it matters. And I think that's something we can all relate to, right? We all have the power to make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. Even when things feel chaotic, we still have choices. So bring it back to the beginning here. Is Goblet of Fire worth the time? Like, definitively.
Oh, absolutely. If you love the series, you need to read this one. It's huge, not just for the plot, but for the characters, how everything changes. And there's so much to think about, too. Good versus evil, what choices we make. It's deep.
Sounds like a must-read for any Harry Potter fan, for sure. What about people who are totally new to the series? Should they jump in here or start from the beginning?
As good as Goblet of Fire is, I think it works best if you've read the first 3. Like, it builds on everything that came before. Starting at the beginning, that's the real magic. Seeing it all unfold.
Yeah, okay, good point. Take it slow, enjoy the ride. And if you've already been to Hogwarts a few times, well, Goblet of Fire is waiting to take you on a whole new adventure.
And it's an adventure you won't forget.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Hope you learned something, and maybe you're a little closer to deciding if this one's for you. Until next time, happy reading.